Hey guys, so today, Wednesday, finally caught up. We are going to finish learning Objective 2. So, learning Objective 2 says I can analyze multiple sources of the same event or topic, noting important similarities and differences in the point of view they represent. Yesterday, we talked about what does all that mean because they could have just said, I can figure out from two different stories what's the main idea and how are they the same in difference and who's telling the story. And it would have been a lot easier to figure out what it is they wanted us to do. In our first story, we said it was a third person, and Evangeline is the lady, and she thinks she's traditional because she sits at the head of the table. Um, Nobody else gets to sit there, so she can kind of be the boss woman. And in story 2, her husband's telling the story, and he talks about how she's stubborn, strong-willed, she's untraditional, but he loves her anyway, so it just doesn't matter. Even it's been 45 years, and he's never sat at the head of the table. We decided that both stories yesterday talked about him sitting at the table, so let's turn the page and see what's next. All right, so this one maybe we should have done yesterday, but hey, here we go. We're going to explain the reasoning for our answers to question 3 and how do you know it's correct? So there we go again. How do you know? Cite text directly. So we want to make sure that we've got something from the text. So we said that both texts talk about the wife is always sitting at the head of the table. So we're going to start off our answer with the question stem saying, I know it is correct because in story 1, it states, oh, that's messy. Hold on, let me fix it. It states comma quotation. So now I'm going to take it right from the story. So I'm here and I'm going to go back and I'm going to take it right out of the story. She sits at the head of the long oak table. It states she sits at the head of the long oak table. In story 2, the husband says, okay, so we're going to go back. And it says here, she takes the place at the head of our dinner table. I'm going to go back now. She takes her place at the head of our dinner table. Period, quotation marks. That's how I know. So our answer looks like this. So I took that question stem, how do you know? I know it is. And then I just kind of wrapped it up with, that's how I know. All right, when I look at question 5, it says, what is the difference between the perspective of the husband and the perspective of the wife? I'm going to underline that word, perspective. And I'm going to put point of view. Who's telling the story? It is a very fancy word, perspective, for who's telling the story, point of view. And since I did it here, I don't need to do it over here with the wife because we know already. So I just say, what is the difference between the point of view of the husband and the point of view of the wife? So A says, the wife thinks that men and women should cook both dinner. The wife thinks that men and women should both cook dinner, but the husband thinks that only women should prepare dinner. First passage has nothing to do with her cooking dinner or what she thinks about it. He says she cooked it, but he doesn't say he thinks she has to. So we're going to put an X on letter A. And I know it may seem silly to do that, but sometimes you get going really fast and you're like, oh my gosh, and then you just circle a letter and it's not even the right one, even though you knew better. But if you put an X, you might just kind of block yourself out. B, the wife feels that she is very traditional, whereas the husband views her as untraditional. Whereas, you guys, is a phrase that means different. So she thinks this, but he thinks that. So let's go ahead and underline whereas, and we're going to put the word but on top of it. Okay, so we're going to underline whereas, and I'm going to put but, B-U-T, which is a conjunction. So we know that's kind of, I've seen that and I remember that, but I want to look at letters C and D because just in case. So C, the husband is upset because his wife is stubborn, but the wife remains happy and smiles. Was he upset about it? Nah, he thinks she's kind of cute because she's just stubborn about things. So C, putting an X. Okay. Letter D. The wife is angered or mad that the husband always sits at the head of the table. Okay, we know D is out because it's said over and over, I never get to sit there. He's not sitting in my chair. So, it's letter X on the D, and we're circling that B. But it's really important to always go through, you guys, because you just never know. Number 6 says, explain your reasoning for the answer to question 5. How do you know? So I'm going to say I know it's correct because in both passages it talks about the tradition or non-tradition. So here we go. So I'm going to put I know it is correct because story 1 says she thinks of herself as traditional, and story 2, he says she is untraditional. Period, quotation. So it did say cite, and so I went ahead and took those. I remember that's how they had written it. So it says thinks of herself as traditional is in quotation marks, and is untraditional is in quotation marks. But he loves her anyways. What a hubby. All right, we're going to flip the packet to question number 7. It says, how are the events in story 1 and 2 similar? Cite the text. So similar, remember, that means the same. So we're going to underline that, and we're going to put same. It should look like that. And so the events in story 1 and 2, the events are similar because it discusses the wife sitting at the head of the table, right? Sitting at the head of the table, and the wife smiling about the food. Okay. And then number 8 is how are they different? So they're different. Who's telling the story? And so how does it mean? So she's sitting there and she's just proud and puffy and I'm good. And I'm the queen and it's my table. And the second one is the husband going, she sits over there at the head of the table. She's so beautiful. She's cooked all this food for us. I just love her. Right? So still talking about where we're sitting, still talking, but we're also talking about traditional because she's very traditional. And he's like, no way is she traditional, but whatever, I don't care. So we're going to put the events are different because story 1 talks about how she thinks she is so traditional. And story 2 talks about how she's not traditional, about how she is untraditional because she sits at the head of the table. And I'm not sure who came up with the idea about who sits where, but heck of the table. And that's what it looks like at the end. All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow, which is Thursday. It is our last day tomorrow for this week, and then we won't see you again until Tuesday. So, bye.